You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com. Before we get the party started, I wanted to let you know about the Libertarian Party of Indiana State Convention. I will be going, and I hope that you will join us as well. It is May 4th through the 5th. It is downtown at the Marriott in Indianapolis, Indiana, and tickets are on sale now at lpin.org. Bill Weld will be the Saturday night speaker. There will be tons of training. In Indiana, we pick our candidates at the convention. So Friday night at the reception, in the evening, you can meet all of the statewide candidates that are running for office that will be nominated the next day. And then if you're a member of the Libertarian Party of Indiana, you can vote in what is essentially our version of the primary. And the theme this year is We Are Libertarians. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Please join us and get your tickets now at lpin.org. Welcome to We Are Libertarians. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. We bring you all of the irreverence modern politics deserves while putting people before political parties. We examine current events from a libertarian perspective with the goal of leaving you better informed. Please be sure to rate and review us on iTunes, super important, and subscribe on Patreon at wearelibertarians.com, even more important. In exchange for supporting our program, we give you all kinds of bonus content and free stuff. 30 minutes of extra show tonight. All CD quality, commercial-free, unedited, and in your feed. The moment we get off the air, I start editing and posting. This show is crowdsourced, so please send us news in our Facebook group or Discord channel. You can join those at wearelibertarians.com. We're always taking your questions and comments via email at editor@wearelibertarians.com. We're going to talk about some listener letters on gun control tonight. Please be warned that this show is raw, unedited, and authentic, so the language is sometimes strong and offensive. My name is Chris Spangle, and I'm joined by my Tuesday co-host, Harry Price. Harry, how are you?
Tired, very tired, but I'm here. I'm moving.
It's not your catchphrase.
What? I don't have a catchphrase.
How's it going, Harry?
Going good, going good.
There you go. All right. I think people would be upset if you didn't say that.
Oh.
You look dapper. You walked in a nice Oxford shirt and khakis and highly polished black shoes.
Thank you.
Look very nice. What, Court?
Ha, 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 ha. No, I started working at my new job on Monday, which was... It was fun going in there because they was like, oh, just dress casually. So I was like, I'd wear this casually, and I'm so dressed up. Because everyone's in there's like jeans and a t-shirt.
I know.
In the office environment. I'm like, what? This is an office. Wear your suits and ties. And
Harry last week was like, I don't like this business casual stuff. I want to wear a suit. You're an IT guy in a I don't know if you want to say, but in a shop that you don't wear suits there.
I'm going to wear a suit. We're actually getting ready to move location to a nicer, newer facility, and the day one we're there, I'm wearing my suit.
So silly.
Setting the bar. Well, to me, I always, I want to be able to give confidence into the because I'm going new into this IT role. I want to be able to give confidence that I'm just they didn't find me off of, Pell and Pike to come in and start working,
Right. You weren't
find me at PTs.
You didn't just finish up your residency at Liberty Tax waving a sign.
Yeah.
You're a professional.
Yeah,
sir.
I'm going to walk in there and they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Now, some people are like, well, you just most guys come no, I want to come in like this. I want someone to instantly see me, say their issue. And there's been a lot of different times that I have been on voice calls in the last few days when someone's like, I'm having an issue, and they hit me on a voice, and they hit me on a voice and video chat, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm having this issue. And I end up resolving it, and they feel so much better. Like, oh, thank you.
Right.
Good work with you. I'm here, and end up all of my tickets and sit there and drink coffee.
Very good.
Yep. I went after some other I started answering some of the ticket calls in a different country.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was doing their tickets.
Are you an international company?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing their tickets.
Very fancy.
So I'm sure. Yeah, well, because when I went in there, right, they were like like at their time when I was working, it was like
Right.
3 a.m. and there were tickets in there from people like working at night, and I was like, I was answering and fixing them.
You're day 2. You're already familiar enough with stuff to actually do that.
Well, a lot of the stuff is like your basic like Office things, like password resets, or they need access to Office 365, or they're having like update issues, so you can just like remote into their PCs and just fix it.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So a lot of it's like, like just if it's on and I can turn it on through the network, I can just fix it.
So you're a computer whiz.
Yep.
Any chance you'll get James Neese on there?
Hoping I may need him. I may have to. You know what? Honestly, like that's also the good thing about the community of We Are Libertarians. I told them about some of my issues, and a lot of them have responded through either face to face about, "Hey, if I need help, they're a phone call away."
Yeah,
and that's awesome. All of them, you guys are awesome.
Yeah, that we not only give
especially you, Michael,
political advice, we give career advice, love advice, life advice.
We did a whole low-key episode, low-key wall, like an hour on how to get into tech space.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And I do a lot on how to get into broadcasting on the Chris Spangle Show. Go check that out. Very special night for Harry tonight because we're going to talk about censorship on all the major social media platforms. We're going to talk. We're going to read a couple listener letters. Okay. And 2 of them, the bulk of them, are about gun control and how to talk about gun control. So we will answer those at a later date, or at a later time, not a later date. But first, we're going to talk about social media censorship, and Harry's very excited about this because the first person we're going to talk about is one of his favorite YouTubers, Philip DeFranco.
Not my favorite YouTuber, but
You said
Sexy Phil is awesome.
He said you said you're
Sexy Phil. Sexy Phil.
You have a tattoo of him.
Sexy Phil.
Can you give us a history of who Philip DeFranco is? Give us some context as to who this young cute man is.
Sexy Phil, or SXE Phil, or most people know him as Philly D, or the Philip DeFranco Show, is a YouTuber who started out just like most YouTubers, throwing things on YouTube, just trying to, like, in the early days of YouTube, before you made any money on YouTube. People were just making videos to have fun and do stuff like that, and just trying to get people to like them and get likes and things like coming like the early days of a lot of these social media giants. Well, you end up getting a following, just talking about current reviews or just like popular things that are on there. He has gone through his issues. A lot of you people who probably have no idea or like new to the Philip DeFranco Show. That's one thing I do like about Philip DeFranco, is that his past, he's not scrubbing. He's not trying to hide his YouTube past and things that he did, in his back catalog. And just know, I did this. And when new YouTubers make the same mistakes or they went down the same road he did, he admits it. That's the other thing I like about it. He's not trying to hide. Oh no, I never was like that when I was, I never messed with thumbnails like that when I was a small YouTuber. Nope, he admits it, says he does it. He gets it. He gets it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can, if you want this quick synopsis, you can go for like the YT Watchdog. If you guys don't remember the YT Watchdog, you're probably too young. The YouTube Watchdog, it was great videos on YouTube. You just type in YT Watchdog and just type in Phil DeFranco. He also did a lot of YouTubers that were starting to get bigger around that time. His channel was pretty good because he was basically calling people out on their crap of some of the like laziness they were doing on YouTube, which I think, of all the YouTubers he went after, I think Phil DeFranco took he was mad at the criticism, but then took it all to heart and kind of like fixed his stick.
So what does he do now?
Philip DeFranco does now, he does a news show. He did convert to a news show a few years after that and just started talking about news, but he's become that, now he's he is was now the voice of reason on YouTube. He's one of the most middle of the road political commentary on YouTube. Or well, not political, just news, unbiased. He's got a great team behind him that keeps everything tries to keep things unbiased and do very, very great research.
Right.
His other shows I'm kind of worried about because I'm willing to see, because you fall. He does a very, very good job, but when you out in California, you start hiring a lot of California people, you get California Think.
Exactly. And
California Think is that it's weird. Like at my job, I'm having an issue with someone's like a Wi-Fi. I have a Wi-Fi neighbor, a business that's not being a very, very good neighbor.
In what way?
They're taking over more channels than they need.
Right.
They're pumping out and they're pushing way too much power towards my area, and it's messing up my area. So I was like, I'm gonna go talk to them. Like, no, just call the FCC on them. Whoa!
just go.
I'm gonna knock on their door, dude.
They don't know.
Yeah, they either just don't know, or they just something could be wrong. Okay, I'm just gonna knock on their door.
Call the FCC.
Welcome to the Midwest, bruh.
What am I?
Just.
You know how I feel about that organization.
I know that. Yeah, that's the other thing. I almost ranted on my
His second day at work, he's screeching about the government. All right, so Phil DeFranco on, let's see, April 16th, released this video.
Hey guys, I hope you're having a fantastic Monday. Just from the get-go, I want you to know this is not a regular Philip DeFranco show. In fact, I won't be posting until next Monday. I'll explain more on that later. And this video is an extremely frustrating but also exciting video for me to put out. I'll start with what is frustrating, which is that as of right now, with the current state of YouTube, the Philip DeFranco show cannot thrive. In fact, I think very, very soon the Philip DeFranco show may not be able to survive. And it all really boils down to the increased crackdown from YouTube against this channel. I mean, if you've watched the show for a while, you know that I've talked about YouTube cracking down on the channel as far as monetization, but this is a lot more. Back then, we noticed that the Philip DeFranco show had started being demonetized at a higher rate than normal. And so to offset that, of course, we tried to include more sponsors. We launched the pay subscription service, DeFranco Elite. People sign up for $5, $10 a month tiers. They get exclusive videos, early videos, exclusive live streams. There's a lot more. And it helps insulate us from the demonetization issue. It allows us to really thrive as a channel and also use that money to build out everything we've been doing behind the scenes. So the demonetization issue on YouTube really isn't of the highest priority to me. Unfortunately, we're being hit by what I would call a sister algorithm. Often when you see YouTube comments about demonetization, they often separate it from suppression of views. And it's accurate, but also at the same time very misleading. Technically, demonetization and the rating of a video, let's say, as mature, where it's unable to be on trending, on the front page, watch next, the recommended tab. Think of those as separate but very, very similar levers. While a video being demonetized does not 100% of the time mean that that video will be suppressed. Now when we see that little dollar sign, it's kind of like a canary in a coal mine. Unfortunately, because YouTube is not transparent with how they rate our videos or why or what is in that video, you don't know for sure, but it's usually reflected in the views and at the rate of the views. As a side note, YouTube needs to change the backend to let us know what our videos are being rated. In an ideal world, we'd love to also know why. Right, so an example last week, several of our videos were suppressed. Tons of comments saying the video is not popping up where it normally does. What's the deal? The next morning, the videos have around 300 to 450,000 less views than the average videos normally have. One of the biggest problems is this is now happening at an alarming rate. And usually what happens is when we bring it to YouTube, that they look into it, they either say like, oh, okay, well, you talked about this thing, you showed this thing in relation to the story, which I would understand demonetization, sure. Me talking about Syria, Russia, United States relations, maybe Pepsi doesn't want that ad there. But it doesn't make sense to people that watch my show on a regular basis that I'm not popping up on the homepage recommended watch next. YouTube built the system so that they feel comfortable knowing, oh, if Phil posts a new video, that's where it's going to be. Or they say, well, you know, the algorithm's learning, the AI's learning. Well, that's the problem. Because this is popping up more and more, it appears that the algorithm has learned to crack down on my videos now. Now that said, I don't want this to be just a video of me whining. Part of this is also, one, I want people to know that I have been posting videos, you may not just have seen them. And two, to really just send my plea out to YouTube, please help me. I want to be able to talk about the news here, world news, serious issues, and I honestly now, based off of the way YouTube has set itself up, don't believe that I can thrive on this platform anymore. And that's incredibly disheartening for me, especially as a creator who's been on the platform for over a decade, who really, like, I love saying that I'm a YouTuber, but not with the way things are now. Now that said, to flip it over to the exciting, this may be news for a lot of people that are not members of DeFranco Elite, also people that haven't seen certain little snippets we've included in vlogs. What we've been doing behind the scenes for these many, many months has been building up to be able to launch the new news network. And having to deal with all of this stupid, ridiculous YouTube bullshit is not stopping me from launching any of that. When I left Group 9/Discovery, I brought a little small team with me. Behind the scenes, we've hired a ton of people so we can expand. We've built out a 6-person research and investigative team that is most likely going to go to 10 in the near future. We've been bringing on and testing a stable of hosts on brand new shows, many with journalism, reporting backgrounds, also just from different walks of life. This for a variety of new shows we've talked about in the past, deep dives, short social videos.
What is a sanctuary city? How did they come to be, and why should we even care?
Today, we're talking about a word you've probably heard and seen all over the media these last couple months. Tariffs.
Today we're breaking down how Spotify became the most powerful music company in the world, the price of 1 billion streams, and whether or not your favorite musicians are getting stiffed.
We've been working on a semi-daily live news show where we go in, we give all the facts, and then we all kind of talk about it and debate it. Also, a big part of the reason we want to do that live is so that we can bring back the conversation with you guys and actually include.
All right, let's you can go hear his commercial elsewhere. Yeah. So YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, how do you say her name?
Susan hates winning.
Wachowski.
Yeah, Wachowski hates winning.
Specifically spoke about the problem in a blog post on December 4 of last year. She admitted they hadn't done right by the creators. We've heard loud and clear from creators that we have to be more accurate when it comes to reviewing content so we don't demonetize by mistake. We are planning to apply stricter criteria and conduct more manual curation while also specifically ramping up on our team of ad reviewers to ensure ads are only running where they should. This will help limit inaccurate demonetizations while giving creators more stability around their revenue. So while she said that, a video published 3 weeks ago, and this article is from Polygon.com, a channel named Nerd City, a YouTube channel that does in-depth investigations into YouTube issues like demonetization, says they aren't sharing everything with creators. YouTube is reportedly using an internal MPAA-style rating system that's like rated R, PG-13 for movies, motion picture something, and letting advertisers decide on the range of rated content on which they want ads to appear. The tool also lets advertisers call out specific types of videos they don't want ads running on, including tragedy and conflict, sensitive social issues, profanity and rough language, sexually suggestive, and sensational and shocking. Videos that deal with tragedy or conflict or social issues cover a lot of what DeFranco and We Are Libertarians covers. We do have a YouTube channel. We have 666 subscribers, I think.
Woo!
Maybe I read that wrong. We stream every video. You can go back and watch every channel. You want to see what Harry and I look like? You want to watch this at work on YouTube? You can watch the video of us doing the show. Great audio. We got a nice little iRig that gives us that audio. So please go subscribe so we can hit 1,000 subscribers so we can start getting our money back from monetization. So they have this secret rating system, and the reported combination of a mature rating and content that advertisers don't want to touch may lead to suppressed views, which is what DeFranco is saying. The investigation found that if a video gets labeled internally as mature, it gets recommended far less even to regular viewers. The bot being used by YouTube to label videos couldn't differentiate between a video raising awareness about suicide and a video mocking mental illness. DeFranco said, "I'm tired of trying to work with an alcoholic, negligent stepfather that is YouTube. At this point, it doesn't really matter if you're swerving this car into a tree on purpose or you're just asleep at the wheel, and that's what's happened, YouTube." So, I think if you're, listen, I'm a type of content creator that believes in diversification.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can have, obviously our first and foremost position in terms of content distribution is podcasts, audio podcasts. But we have secondary strategies of YouTube videos, social groups. We have a lot of Facebook groups based on interests, which if you go to our Facebook page and tap the group tabs, then you'll see all the different interests that you can join. Email newsletter, where I send out the show links.
Which is huge.
For every episode.
Which is huge. If you're not on the email links, you need to be on there.
Please sign up. I did run out of time Friday before I got that out, so I apologize. I'll send out I will be diligent about it, but occasionally I'll probably end up not getting to it. But
yeah, even if you don't want to like open it up, you're bad at looking at the newsletter. The idea of getting on the email list is perfect, just in case something does happen to We Libertarians on one of these platforms.
Yes, and so that's the point: is that I try to diversify what we do because I don't want to be beholden to any single platform. Because I really, first and foremost, you want to be where your audience is. Mm-hmm. As a person who creates content, you can't get them to change behaviors.
Right.
You know, if I shifted all of our content to a mobile app, mm-hmm. and we have 2 mobile apps for iTunes and Google Play, so we have a mobile app on each platform. Let's say I wanted to shift everything to our mobile app or everything to our website. You don't listen to podcasts on websites. You don't watch videos on websites. You don't. It's
weird people,
right? So you want to reach people where they're at, and so it's got to be frustrating when you make a tremendous amount of money for a company like YouTube, as Philip DeFranco surely does, mm-hmm. and then he gets punished for just trying to be a middle of the road person, and Facebook just doesn't kind of care that they're putting their biggest creators out.
They don't, and a lot of some of their best live streamers have a lot of them have moved over to Twitch or other things, or they're doing, or just dropped out of being a creator on the again the front part. They've started to make money off of people. Let me train you how to do this. I'm done making videos. Let me show you how to do it. And then you've got the people who are like the largest YouTube creators that make the most money, and they just. They make goofy videos for kids to watch over and over again. And it seems like that's what YouTube wants. That's all they want. They don't want you and your news or your stuff like that, your ugly adult stuff. They just want you to make stuff that 14 to 16-year-old kids will watch and repeat.
Right.
With ads bombarding them.
Right.
That's what they want.
Which is disappointing, considering all of these different free speech platforms. I mean, we've talked this to death. And let's give the obligatory property rights. This is their platform. They can do what they want with it, short of defrauding their users.
And slash business partners.
Right.
Because, some of them probably given money for advertising, and they've made money.
Right. So, we wanted to bring awareness to YouTube. Do you have anything else that you'd like to say about Philly D?
The thing is, Philly D is huge. And I really see if Philly D can make it, right? And he shows everyone that, because he already showed everyone that, you can make an independent.
Right.
You can make it independent. You don't need like these massive creator studios who used to like bog down YouTube and just steal money from people. Like Machinima and Maker Studio, all these other, Revision 3, that you didn't need these anymore. Like he did those too, but he was like realizing, wow, I don't need you. I don't need you.
Right.
You guys are holding me back. And now it's like, if he finds out that he can do this, right, without the crutch of YouTube, then it's just going to signal that other people are going to go with him.
Yep.
You know what? Like, it's like, you know what? Philly, here's my show. Can I be on your network?
So I tweeted at Susan Wojcicki and Sundar, the CEO of Google and YouTube, and Philly D, and I just said, if Philip DeFranco is unwelcome on your platform when he's trying to discuss issues, then you're really letting the ball down. This needs to be fixed immediately.
Yeah.
Just a couple tweets supporting him directly to the company, to the people who are decision makers, just saying, hey, I support Philip DeFranco and his ability to talk about news on YouTube, and you should care.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend doing that. Take some action to support him and take a look at that, because here's why I say that. Everybody's watching this, all right? And so there's a lot of people on YouTube being demonetized. There's a lot of people being thrown out of algorithms. But Philip DeFranco is pretty clean guy that everybody's watching and going, this is ridiculous. And what happens to him really sets a template. So I think it's important to really pay attention to this. If you care about free speech on YouTube, you may not. I mean, you just may not care. But I do. I think that it's the second largest search engine. It has a tremendous amount of power over our thought, and they should be as close to neutral in content decisions as possible. Mm-hmm. And so I've taken action in just expressing support for him, which is all I can do, just to add to the discourse.
They can't extra demonetize us, right?
Nah.
Okay.
We've made $23 over the course of... I mean, we're just now really starting over the last few months to take YouTube seriously, and we don't even do custom content for the platform yet.
Yeah.
We will, but I just don't have time.
That's the other weird thing about Philip DeFranco. Most of the time, he doesn't hit the demonetize button on his videos.
Right.
He doesn't. Because he's like, oh, this is going to get demonetized anyway, so I'm going to hit the button.
What's the button?
Okay to monetize this video.
Gotcha.
He doesn't do it.
Right.
He goes like, oh, I'm not even going to fight that. He just wants to get the video. It's like, I'll make sponsors on my own end, and sponsors want to sponsor this type of content.
Right.
Just give me my views, and YouTube is taking away his views.
Yeah.
And that's the worst part about it, is like, he's not asking for ad revenue from Google. So like, he's already been hustling, right, getting ads on his own, instead of just taking them lazily from Google AdSense.
Sure. Which they don't like.
Right.
Joe Rogan doesn't put his ads in because they want their cut, which is why Philip DeFranco should start a podcast, an audio podcast version, or a video podcast where he puts it into iTunes.
If you watch more of his content, he is.
Okay.
He's got this whole video really cool. Chris got me watching videos of people setting up their studio. I blame Chris for getting me to watch these videos.
It's like porn, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's nice, yeah.
And I watched him set up his studio like, oh, yeah.
I just sit there and watch Ray Ortega videos all day long. Ooh, podcast answer, man.
Just like I did that to him on Discord. I'm like, oh, man, you see Hack 5's new studios?
Yeah.
See that rigging? Oh, look at that rigging.
Yeah, I like the rigging. It's nice rigging.
Is that portable rigging? Oh,
I know, man. It's so much fun. I love it. I'm such a gear geek. So let's move on from Apple from Google and YouTube, and let's move on to Facebook. Let's talk about Facebook censorship. We're just giving you like our monthly update on the way that these outlets are censoring us. Luke says, I'm a subscriber with the bell checked and still don't get notifications for some of Phil's videos. Amazing.
Me too.
So that's crazy.
Yeah. I created a separate YouTube channel, a YouTube account, a Google account that's just subscribed to 3 news trends like Mox News and Philip DeFranco. That's it.
Mox News.
I love Mox News.
I know. They do a good job.
One of the few people I donate to every month.
All right, so Business Insider reports Trump vloggers Diamond and Silk are sticking to their debunked claim about Facebook censorship ahead of congressional testimony. Now, this happened in mid-April, so this was posted today. So Diamond and Silk were, over the last month or so, Diamond and Silk are 2 black sisters who are rabid Trump supporters, very funny, very engaging. And they do a lot of content on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and they've become prominent in the MAGA crowd. And they had their Facebook page shut down on allegation, and they were basically censored. Sorry about that. They were basically censored by professional broadcaster. Mm-hmm. So they were censored by Facebook. They had their page shut down, claiming that they went against community guidelines. Now, the big controversy is, I guess they're not, maybe they aren't sisters. No, they're sisters, Hardaway and Richardson. They probably just, one has a married name or something. They basically said that Facebook never contacted them, and then Eric Erickson of Red State basically has proof that they contacted them somehow, and it's like somehow it's a controversy, like over whether they were contacted by Facebook or not. It's like, who cares? The fact is that their page was shut down. So they're like, it's not like we're magically just pulling this out of the air. We went back and forth with Facebook only for Facebook to come and email us on April the 5th to let us know that we are unsafe to the community. They deemed us unsafe to the community, which I think is really the important thing. So when Zuckerberg was testifying, Ted Cruz asked about it, and he said, our team made an enforcement error. We have already gotten in touch with them to reverse it. Hardaway and Richardson, Diamond and Silk, said they had not been contacted by Facebook. Basically, they got sent an email, and it got lost in the shuffle. But more importantly, I think this raises the question of what Facebook censors and how it censors it. Zuckerberg said suppression of certain political speech on Facebook is a fair concern that people would at least wonder about because Silicon Valley is so far left. Zuckerberg said that Facebook unequivocally does not deliberately censor or prohibit speech for political reasons. There's absolutely no directive in any of the changes that we make to have a bias in anything that we do. He said in testimony to the House, to contrary, our goal is to be a platform for all ideas. They announced their new community standards. The first step in the direction is creating full transparency about our current rules and how we enforce them, Zuckerberg said. He continued, balancing free speech and safety is a challenge both on and off Facebook. We'll continue working hard to get this right for our community. So, for the first time in their existence, Facebook has actually said what they censor, why they censor it. So, Monica Bickert, Facebook's Vice President of Product Policy and Counterterrorism, spoke to Reuters. New policies will, for the first time, allow people to appeal a decision. Now, this is important. So you can appeal to take down groups, pages, and accounts, but now they're also going to let you try to take down individual pieces of information. So let's say you're watching your leftist friends, and you go, I don't want that on Facebook, which seems like they already have it. So maybe this just article isn't clear. Facebook is also beginning to provide specific reasons why content is being taken down for a wider variety of situations. Bickert told Reuters in an interview that the standards are constantly evolving based in part on feedback from more than 100 outside organizations and experts in areas such as counterterrorism and child exploitation. We expect these will be updated frequently. The company considers changes to its content policies every 2 weeks at a meeting called the Content Standards Forum. A small group of reporters were allowed to sit in and describe the process, but not the substance. At the April 17th meeting, about 25 employees sat around a conference table, while others joined by video from New York, Dublin, Mexico City, Washington, and elsewhere. Attendees included people who specialize in public policy, legal matters, product development, communication, and other areas. They heard reports from smaller working groups, relayed feedback they had gotten from civil rights groups and other outsiders, and suggested ways that a policy or product could go wrong in the future. There was little mention of what competitors such as Google do in similar situations. Bickert, a former U.S. federal prosecutor, posed questions providing background and kept the discussion moving. Facebook is planning on a series of public forums in different countries to get feedback. So what do they actually censor? It's about an 8,000-word long document that they've been using. For instance, videos of people wounded by cannibalism are not permitted, for instance, but some imagery is allowed with a warning screen if it is in a medical setting. Facebook has long made clear that it does not allow people to buy or sell prescription drugs, marijuana, or firearms on the social network, but you can have speech on those subjects. Content in which someone admits to the personal use of non-medical drugs should not be posted on Facebook. Documents elaborate on harassment and bullying, barring, for example, cursing at a minor. So Stone Aldridge, you're safe. Mm-hmm. It also prohibits content that comes from a hacked source, except in limited cases of newsworthiness. Content deemed to be permissible under community standards, but in violation of local law is not allowed, such as a prohibition in Thailand on disparaging the royal family. They're blocked in the country, but not globally. They said, the article says, the community standards also does not address false information. Facebook does not prohibit it, but does try to reduce its distribution or other contentious issues and use of personal data. So I agree with all of that, and I think that it is important. Somebody who is a community manager in both my day job and for We Are Libertarians, it is important to do community management. It is important to fill your community with people that are pleasant and that other people want to be around. How many of us have joined a forum, Harry, where it's just a bunch of dirtbags and you don't want to be a part of it? I don't go to 4chan every day.
I've never been to 4chan, so yeah.
Never.
Never. And, yeah, never been there. But yeah, you're right. Some people just need the helicopter, Chris, that you need. You don't want to fill your community up with people, who are unpleasant. And if they're unpleasant, well.
Yeah, I don't want to see somebody, eating another person on my Facebook feed. Like their standards make total sense, and it is completely their prerogative.
Right. That is for Discord. There's a separate channel for that. If you want to see.
We do not have cannibal videos on our Discord, and I don't want any.
Yeah, that's a joke. It's a joke.
So I understand that version of censorship.
Yes.
I understand wanting to keep a community. This has been a discussion from the very beginning with these platforms. Mm-hmm. That's why Twitter at one point called themselves the free speech wing of the free speech party, is because they allowed anything and everything.
But even them, they're starting to shadow ban titties.
We will get to Twitter next, but they, because they were trying to position themselves as the anti-Facebook who censored a lot of stuff. Yep. And because it's a little safer, I would say that it's part of the reason that it's bigger.
Ruining my Twitter feed.
Right. What I do have a problem with is when your standards aren't evenly applied, and that's what they have to work on.
Yes.
When do we all really think that Diamond and Silk were pulled because of community standards? It's probably some little jackass in Menlo Park saying, I don't like these conservatives, I'm taking it down. Like,
right.
We're not dumb. Don't treat us like we're dumb.
Or they're damaging the narrative.
Right.
It's, whoa, these darkies can't be liking the, Trump, can't have that.
Well, I'd like to point out, Harry is of African descent, and please do not call this program racist. We've made a concerted effort, especially lately, not to be racist.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so, I mean, these platforms have every right to do what they want, but they should be really clear about it. And I do think that this is a good move by Facebook to be very clear about what they do and they don't, and to really step up and get involved in the conversation. These public forums, like, I really do get the sense, and I don't know if you feel this way, that Facebook does actually care what people say. And they really don't want to be a censor. They really don't want to be in control of what goes on their platform. Another quote by Zuckerberg, I'm fundamentally uncomfortable sitting here in California in an office making content policy decisions for people around the world. The thing is, like, where's the line on hate speech? I mean, who chose me to be the person that did that? I guess I have to because of where we are now, but I'd rather not. I mean, I really... I think he's being bullied by liberal politicians.
Yeah, I was going to say he's being bullied by liberal politicians.
Same with YouTube.
Yeah.
Same with Twitter.
Yeah, and they're very careful with what they put on their site because at the end of the day, like, look what happened to Ross. His hands never touched drugs. He's sitting in life in prison.
Right, Ross Ulbricht.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and. In a way, President Zuckerberg... Oh, sorry, spoke too soon. President Zuckerberg, you can tell that he really... I want to believe him that he doesn't like doing that, but come on.
You think he does?
I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares. I really think what he really cares about is those checks.
Yeah, he's the CEO of a company that has responsibilities to shareholders.
Because I want you to know something. I'm free speech. But the checks that he be getting, man.
Oh, you'd give up.
Oh, man, it'd be hard. It'd be very hard.
You'd violate some naps for a few $1 billion.
Man, just digital naps.
Listen, we've all said all along, we are libertarians, and anyone that is on it can be bought at any time. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of price.
Exactly. And when I'm being bought, I like to have the cold, refreshing taste of Ice House beer.
Thank you, Harry. All right. We are now back to the Bitcoin studios here at taping on our Tide recorder. Mm-hmm. Tide. Keeping this audio clean, just like my laundry. So, Stone says, I think he cares about eating whatever lizards eat.
That's species. Okay.
I mean,
that's actual racism.
Defamation.
Actual racism.
It's speciesism.
Yep. Next thing, Stone's going to be going like it's half human, not half elf. Waiting for that, Stone.
Stone says he can't be bought, but that's because he's 20 and he lives at his parents' house. And as soon as he gets out in the real world and has to start making rent,
then he'll be bought.
Give me some checks, please. So yeah, I think that I think Zuckerberg, I mean, let's be honest, he probably voted for Clinton, all right? But I do think they do feel a responsibility more than the other social platforms to get this right. And I didn't feel that way until I really saw the testimony and have watched their reaction to this. And I've softened my position on them a little bit because I think they realize they're in a world of hurt and they're in an unwinnable position because they've got to please the right, they've got to please the left, they got to please the shareholders, they got to please the audience that is on their platform, they've got to make sure that they are responsible for what's on their platform, but not tip over their Section 230 protections where they become a publisher and then they get sued for every copyrighted photo on their platform. Like, they've got a very delicate balance. And when you've got a company that's networking 2 billion people out of 7 billion people on the planet, has an enormous market cap, and thousands of employees, I mean, it's a difficult position. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I will say that Zuckerberg, at every point, they've made mistakes, as any company's going to. It is a big company, a lot of eyes on it, a lot of data, it's fraught with danger what they do. And they have made mistakes with things like data and Cambridge Analytica. And they've, like, in the past, Zuckerberg has owned up to that stuff, and he's listened, and he said, hey, so I don't buy into what a lot of the tech people say, which, we just keep having to have this conversation. Those are the same people who are for them to be censored. They're the same ones who are for what's the series of tubes and cutting off the tubes. I'm having a brain fart right now. The
old boomer guys?
Ajit Pai.
Yeah. Oh, the FCC guys?
No, what's that law called? Why can I not think of this?
What, SIPA?
No.
Or SOPA?
No, the big one.
FESTA?
Harry.
There's so many of them. There's so many big laws.
Net neutrality.
Oh, yeah, that thing. That ugly thing.
Like, all these tech journalists that I read and even twit, like, they're all, these guys are just awful. And this fake news is terrible. And they just buy into the mainstream journalism line. And I take a different approach. I see the perils that Zuckerberg has had to walk, and I think he's done a pretty decent job of it. I never cared about the Cambridge Analytica stuff. I gave all that information over willingly. None of the stuff that was compromised, because I was a quote-unquote victim of it, that I cared about. It was all public information. It's all stuff I've got on a website anyways. It's the breaking of promises in terms of what you're promising to me, and hey, build this page. Oh, sorry, we're gonna make you do Facebook Live now. Pump money into that, and it's kind of like, all right, I don't trust you as a marketing partner anymore.
Yeah,
and that's sort of where I've had a bad taste in my mouth. And then on the censorship stuff, when it first came out that they were censoring the little articles on the right, he met with a bunch of conservatives, but it seemed that didn't really change a lot. It just kind of got worse. So I don't know if we should trust him at this point, but we'll see. So the jury's still out. I feel that he is probably a little bit of a more honest broker, and all of the people at Facebook are trying, as opposed to Twitter, where can you go to @Jack? And Jack Dorsey is the CEO. I
see that on Discord. Oh, you mean Twitter?
On Twitter. He's the CEO of Twitter. And see if that tweet where he posts an article and he basically says something to the effect of, interesting read.
Jack Black.
Great read, or something along that.
Is it a pinned one?
It might be.
It says @Jack.
Yeah, but it should be a great read. Because I think this really kind of shows who Jack Dorsey is and where his head is. Let me pull it up. Jack.
All I know, right, my Twitter feed used to be filled with nothing but libertarians and tech nerds, security tech nerds.
Sounds like boobies, too.
And I added boobies and butts. Okay? And then one day, I turned on my Twitters, and I got all these nerds staring at me in the face, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to take all this, like this, It was like, well, why are you, like, Lacey used to ask me, like, well, why are there so many boobs and butters? Because some of this, these hack news are depressing and need to be cheered back up.
Right.
They want to be like,
that was your
I don't hack my fitness pal. Oh, that's nice. I've got all Androids are screwed up to the new update. Oh, that's nice.
Back to boobies.
Back to boobies.
Well, you're just gonna have to find this for yourself.
What is Aleppo?
Jack retweeted on April 18th, thanks to a Bernie Sanders tweet. I am Cardi B. Thanks for calling attention to customer service. Lots of retweets of Kanye.
Less than Kanye.
Like he's just one of these dudes who's a Silicon Valley guy who's like, oh, here we go. We got Jack retweeting, the CEO of Twitter retweeting Emma Gonzalez. I've been getting a lot of critical feedback about this thing that I tweeted, and basically this great read came on April 5th, and it links to an article where basically it's like one side has to lose, and it's probably going to be the conservatives.
Oh.
And then he so it's just kind of like you kind of see the themes, and it's all hip hop stuff because I'm cool. I'm a tech guy who's into hip hop.
Yeah. Which a lot of people think that's you can't put those two together. But most DJs are nerds,
right?
Like Little John is a nerd.
So Steven Crowder at one point was banned from Twitter. This happened back in.
You let him back?
Yeah, he's back. He's back tweeting to his 500 and some thousand followers. So 3 members of the Louder with Crowder studio team, including host Steven Crowder, was suspended from Twitter after posting a video of a show intern infiltrating a gender nonconformity meetup at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas last weekend.
Girls friend computer. Crowder's
suspension from Twitter comes following a vicious assaults on his character by leftists smearing him as a neo-Nazi and alt-right racist. This was written by the conservativereview.com, which owns CRTV, which is where he hosts a show, by the way. It's just kind of the last place where the article's at. So they say the Crowder suspension comes following vicious assaults on his character by leftists smearing him as a neo-Nazi and alt-right racist using fake social media posts to wrongly claim that Crowder is one of them. On Tuesday, Twitter notified Crowder and his producer Jared Monroe and his intern, who goes by the alias Sven Computer, that the video violated Twitter rules against hateful conduct, that their accounts would be temporarily limited. The video has also been removed from YouTube for violating terms of service. Initially, the Crowder team believed that their original posts were removed because the word faggot was not censored. Here's what we think happened, he says. The original video that went out didn't have the word faggot soft bleeped. Soft bleep is an industry term meaning you heard the F and you heard the T, and you could very clearly hear what was actually being said in the bleep. They didn't really actually try. The original video was immediately pulled from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook as the studio team added bleeps for the quote-unquote offensive content, their quotes. After the bleeps were added into the video, the studio re-uploaded the South by Southwest undercover video back to YouTube and Facebook. But after the team removed the video, censored it, and posted it on @NotGayJared's account. Is he gay or is not gay?
No, he says right there, not gay.
Okay, all right. So
says he's not gay.
We'll get to this.
Says he's not gay.
So the score video removed, video made safe as possible. Twitter still has Steven the Not Gay Jared's account suspended, and he is now back. Here's my problem with this. You're being an idiot. Like, I hate this stuff. Like, and there's a new video with Adam Kokesh running up and badgering the shit out of Bill Weld. Mm-hmm. And as Harry goes, don't make me feel bad for Bill Weld.
Yeah.
And it's like being outrageous for outrageous' sake. It just I'm going to take the left's tactics and I'm going to bitch about them by doing the same thing. Okay, Steven, you're going to run in. Thank you, Stone. He's not gay. You're going to go, why do you have to go in and, crash somebody's gender nonconformity meetup where it's just a bunch of people who are trying to meet up and hang out, and they don't want you there. You're not invited.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
You're there being a dick.
Full disclosure, I did laugh at that video. I watched it twice,
right.
And I did laugh.
I'm sure it's good, but
it's a dick move. It's a dick move.
Right.
It is hilarious.
Now, do you think that it belongs on social media platforms?
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I'll say this because even though I don't like this, and I think this is dumb content.
Yeah.
This is not the thing that we libertarians will ever do because it's lowbrow and cheap and easy, but it gets great hits. It gets great viral content, even though it's completely useless in the realm of public discourse.
Right, yeah, it didn't accomplish anything other than like the helping out the circle jerk.
Right. It just made your people laugh, which fine.
Yeah.
But
which they could have did so much with that videos because you're in a gender nonconforming video, which like if you would have played it straight, could have got like a.
But
yeah, because they done some other cool videos just like that, and got to very disturbing and interesting things, but it just seemed like this one they just said screw it. They didn't want to.
I've not watched any of Crowder other than the a couple of the Change My Minds, which are fine, but I just like, to me there's nothing material there. I don't get any material benefit from watching those. Like, to me it's just like one person bitching and him asking questions. I feel like it's his escape where he can create this little scenario where he can go, well, you know, like we have this series where I do this, you know, I'm fostering dialogue. But like Crowder's whole shtick is like comedy, and he's trying to do the Breitbart thing, which if that's your bag, cool. Well, like
late night Liberty guy.
Right. Yeah. Like I prefer Gavin McInnes. I watch a lot of Gavin. I think a lot of what he says is not down for it, but
where's my tie?
But I do every once in a while go, all right, that's an interesting point. Like there's a synapse that fires in my brain when I watch Gavin. Not so much with Steven, but listen, if this is content that I don't think should be censored. If I had a platform, I would not censor it. But I understand that if you're a raging leftist named Jack Dorsey who runs Twitter, you'd want to censor that because your friends are mad at you.
The weird thing about the way it was censored is how quickly it was censored. It was like someone knew that video was coming,
and from all the platforms.
Yes,
in the same like short time span.
That was like if that was his intended goal to find out, I'm going to toss them some serious red meat and see if they go after it.
Right,
but I don't know if that was his intent or not.
Right,
I think his intent was to make this goofy video and put it up. But to watch all that, it was more of that.
He's trying to make his crowd laugh.
Yeah.
Which is more power to you. We're all just trying to get an audience and get paid.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know? So, but let's read this article from Fast Company. I will put this stuff in the show notes that I will not forget for this episode, which you can get by signing up on our email newsletter at wearelibertarians.com. This is called When Jack Dorsey's Fight Against Twitter Trolls Got Personal by Austin Carr and Fast Company. Really like Fast Company, good magazine. Last November, Twitter stripped Richard Spencer, the high-profile white nationalist, of his blue checkmark, his verified status on the social media platform. His badge's removal, coinciding with the purge of other alt-right account verifications, came just days after Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey tweeted that Twitter's verification system was broken, in response to a growing user uproar about neo-Nazis being conferred this status marker. The original intent had been to denote an account's authenticity, but over time it has been erroneously interpreted as an endorsement. He says, "We failed by not doing anything about it, working now to fix it." Inside Twitter, though, some were surprised at how swiftly Dorsey had acted. The company, traditionally known for slow, at times enigmatic, executive decision-making surrounding users and content and what it allows on its platform, quickly worked to roll out new verification guidelines and enforcement measures. Yet, according to several sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity, the hasty decision to eliminate certain alt-right verifications and at other times to suspend particular bad actors from the service altogether has come directly from Dorsey himself. Jack said we should do this, members of the team involved with removing the statuses told co-workers at the time. The rationalization, people familiar with the situation say, has become an increasingly common refrain at Twitter as Dorsey has thrust himself into addressing trust and safety issues, a dynamic that's both promising and fraught. as Fast Company learned during reporting for our new cover story on Twitter. While some insiders are heartened that Dorsey is finally giving products safety, quote-unquote safety, and enforcement, it's a minefield that calls into question the impartiality of the system, especially if he continues to step into internal decisions relating to individual accounts. Jack was making those kind of calls. They were very smart. They were not very smart. They were very smart about it. You're not going to find a paper trail, says one source. He was very good about providing certain items to the safety team and asking for action. He would tell somebody on the team, you should check out this account, you should do something about it. So later in the article, they talk about the company's history, where they people who work in the company at Twitter are happy about his censorship of alt-right folks, and others are not, because a lot of the old-timers remember in 2012 when they used to call themselves the free speech wing of the Free Speech Party. Even as the company witnessed a parade of red flags on the platform, horrific cyberbullying incidents, racist and misogynistic trolling, extremist content such as ISIS beheadings, Dorsey, who served as Twitter's chairman before returning as its chief executive nearly 3 years ago, remained for the most part committed to these ideals. Meanwhile, his predecessor, Dick Costolo, and his co-founder, along with fellow board member Ev Williams, who now runs Medium, were growing disillusioned with Twitter's absolutist approach to free speech. Sources say Ev and Dick were in one camp, whereas Jack was more in the let free speech be free camp, says a source familiar. Then Jack, this is a quote, the stance Jack took then was very different from the stance he's taking now. He felt uncomfortable and worried that we might end up squelching too many voices as a result of anti-abuse efforts. Dorsey, this source adds, was particularly concerned about false positives, meaning speech on the platform wrongly deemed inappropriate or abusive and thus unjustly inhibited in some way. At one point, he wondered aloud whether the company could somehow develop a metric to measure tweets mistakenly suppressed on the service to determine how many impressions were stifled as a result, which he described, according to this source, as a tantamount to an insult to our customers and to an open platform. Then the breaking point basically was Milo Yiannopoulos. A source intimately involved in these actions described them as emotionally draining when they were talking about all these different fights going on. As Dorsey opened up free speech from Costello, it was becoming harder to become a free speech advocate inside Twitter, according to this article. You try to block a piece of user content, and another team would be like, no, that's not abuse, that's freedom of expression, this source called. It was a total nonsense molasses machine. Presumably that's somebody saying, like, I'm on the team that wants to censor speech, so it wasn't until July 2016 when Dorsey's views changed after alt-right trolls on Twitter, incited by white nationalist provocateur. Is Milo actually a white nationalist? I mean, because I've not really read much of this, but I don't know. I'll have to really go back and look at it, because
I don't think you can be a white nationalist. I don't think they'll let him in his club because he smokes a lot of. He blows a lot of black guys.
He's gay. He's a man. He's a gay man married to a black man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Milo's not hanging out with Nazis. So I hesitate to even read their description of him as a white nationalist provocateur.
Yeah.
He's certainly a provocateur, but I just don't know enough about him. He's
definitely a provocateur. And there's probably white nationalists who watch him.
Right. Absolutely. No, that's no doubt.
Just like there's white nationalists who listen to Thomas Sowell.
Right. Yeah, and that's the problem. Like a person who has a certain undesirable following doesn't necessarily hold those views, and these guys are being punished for the people that watch them. So the Leslie Jones with the SNL star Leslie Jones, incited by her fight with Milo, is really what did. Dorsey personally weighed into the issue, declaring an abuse emergency inside the company that eventually led to safety features and Yiannopoulos' suspension. Earlier that year, he also contributed to an internal debate around removing Yiannopoulos' verification status. These enhanced safety efforts picked up by the aftermath of the election, particularly as a number of incidents unfolded, like Charlottesville. So, that gives you an insight into Twitter. They are going to continue to crack down on free speech. It's a slippery slope, and here's where I think I come down on it. I certainly appreciate the positions that these companies are in as people who want to. These are money-making machines, and it's hard to tie money to 4chan. Like, there's a reason 4chan doesn't have sponsorships.
They do.
They don't.
I don't
ads.
know. I don't know.
They don't have
never there.
ads. Yeah, I've never seen an ad on 4chan.
They have ads, but I'm never there to verify that. But they have ads.
Maybe they do, but it's hard to allow a Richard Spencer on your platform and not get shit for it and not cave. But if I were running a social network, I would find an elegant way, as Bill Ottman of Minds.com did on this program, of saying free speech is free speech. Like, we want real people on our platform. We don't want phonies, but we do definitely want free speech of any variety, because free speech is what, like, I've met a Nazi. Okay, I met a Nazi. It's the first Nazi true KKK member that I've ever met in my life. After meeting him, I couldn't have been... He was laughable. He was a laughable human being. Like, I was not intimidated by him at all, you know? And it was... That's where it comes down. It's like, you see the speech and you just ignore it. But I do understand that this is their servers. It's their platform. They can do what they want. But you have to be really careful, because when you start saying Philip DeFranco is someone that ought to be censored, all right, this is the slippery slope that we've warned about. Okay, you start with Milo, you start with Richard Spencer, eventually it's going to get to Philip DeFranco.
And Joe Rogan.
And the only people that we're going to have on these platforms is Reuters and AP.
Reuters
and that's
AP.
what Facebook's doing.
Yeah, and that's what they want. They even go after Mox News all the time, too, but, you know, for other reasons. But, yeah, the Twitter is barely a money-making machine.
Right.
The only reason it's still around and relevant, they have to thank President Donald Trump.
I think that's a great point.
It is the only reason. That's why they haven't banned Trump. They banned Trump. What's the main reason you got to be on the platform?
Right.
Not freedom of speech. They've already been, just this year, they have started to shadow ban and ban a lot of sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people who work in the adult industry. They started banning them.
Explain shadow banning.
Shadow banning is where that you don't get to see anyone new. You only get to see people that in your network that are automatically already follow you, and those in low numbers, and that you don't get no one will ever be able to discover you. You're not searchable. Basically, only people can find you if they have your actual hyperlink. They click the hyperlink to find you. They're not going to be able to search you and find you.
Yeah,
and it's disgusting that it happens that way. But, you know, granted, and it's harder to find because they make it so the people who already follow you can still find you. So they can't tell you that you've been shadow banned.
Right.
So you almost have to create a help people. Which I have done is help create a separate account. You know, use a VPN and then try to go like, okay, no, you're shadow banned. I cannot see you on the platform.
Yeah,
you're completely shadow banned. Which sucks because like a lot of those, like I said, I think and I still say that the biggest day, like the most untapped community for if libertarians get the freaking act together, the most untapped community is sex workers. You know,
right.
It's to go after them because they hit the same atrocities that most of you libertarians, everyone you get hit, they hit it too.
Right.
They hate taxes just as much as you do. They pay 1099 taxes. It's an untapped community.
So you mentioned Mediafile DC, or you mentioned Joe Rogan, and this was an opinion piece in Mediafile. Like, this is a blog, okay, but it's made the rounds because it's so ridiculous, and I think it illustrates so clearly what is really the thinking behind all of these incidents of censorship. It's called "It's Time to End the Joe Rogan Experience." Throughout his 30 years in entertainment, Joe Rogan has earned a legion of fans. But despite these, he's mostly known for the Joe Rogan Experience, the 8th most downloaded podcast of any category. When in the years since his podcast debuted, The Rolling Stone has called him the 21st century Timothy Leary, and he's one of the most influential celebrities. Yet, while many claim that Rogan's podcast is pure entertainment, Rogan's rhetoric and choice of whom to associate his podcast with are harmful to his listeners and promote hysteria amongst his audience. Throughout his history of his podcast, along with various guests, they've constantly discussed and have given credence to various conspiracy theories. Rogan has proclaimed on his podcast that he believed the Apollo astronauts did not land on the moon, that the government was behind the assassination of John Kennedy, and that the government found aliens in Roswell, New Mexico. Okay. I think most people believe one of those.
I really love the mushroom guy. Like, if you haven't watched the Joe Rogan the mushroom episode...
Then he goes on to talk about 9/11 trutherism. He's giving credence to conspiracy theories and the fake news movement, essentially telling his audience not to trust anything that is generally accepted as true. Rogan, whether he is aware of it or not, is promoting alt-right figures and their ideology, like Alex Jones, Milo, and Steven Crowder, all of whom have espoused rhetoric that is factually inaccurate, who deliberately instill fear or hatred for their own benefit. Let me rephrase this. His list of guests include people who work for NBC News and CNN, all of whom have espoused rhetoric that is factually inaccurate and whom deliberately instill fear or hatred for their own benefit. That was my rephrase.
Louder Crowder is not alt-right. A lot of alt-right people actually hate Crowder. And Sargon of Akkad.
I wouldn't consider Alex Jones or Milo even alt-right. I mean, Milo actively says I'm not an alt-right person.
Yeah. Milo and and Alex Jones isn't alt-right. They don't want him, and he doesn't want them.
Yeah, he's expressed fondness for Alex Jones. He likes him as a person. How could he do that when he holds such dangerous views? By doing this consistently, he is pushing their vile message closer to the mainstream. His viewers have become susceptible to illogical, xenophobic, and hateful rhetoric because Rogan gives people like Jones and Yiannopoulos a platform where they will not be challenged and called out for their words or behavior, which is not true. If you listen to the Alex Jones, the episode 9/11, one of the greatest pieces of broadcasting in history, with Alex Jones, he repeatedly pushes back. This is the kind of attitude where it's not about expressing ideas; it's about expressing the ideas that we think are appropriate. It's thought control.
Exactly, and Steer Leader is unfortunately wrong. The Joe Rogan 9/11 episode is good. I will give you that. It is good.
Son of a bitch, don't you do it.
But the best Joe Rogan episode has to be the End of the World podcast on election night this last November. That is hilarious. It's Bill Burr at his best. And the episodes afterwards talking about it, how Marilyn Manson was backstage cracking jokes. It's even better, okay? It is some of the best podcasts I've ever
I don't know. I've listened to the Alex Jones
that
one
hasn't
3
been
times.
a part of. You've never seen the End of the World podcast.
He gets Alex Jones drunk and high, and they start talking about interdimensional shape-shifting aliens and how... I mean, it's insane.
Bert Kreischer takes his shirt off.
Well, who hasn't seen that? So, yeah, it really is just... It all comes down... It's about thought control.
Yes.
That's all they want. It's thought control.
Yeah, thought control. And Joe Rogan's dangerous because he only brings people on that he wants to have a conversation with.
Right.
That's it. He just wants to have a conversation.
Right.
And he likes to, and that's the other thing they hate about, a lot of people dislike about it, because he'll talk to anyone that he wants to talk to. Not because they're pushing something. No,
right.
I want to talk to him. He brought in Coleon Noir. It's like, why? Because I want to talk to him. He brought the elk hunter, the chef from Canada that was getting protested by these vegan protests. To get one, because he probably saw the video, right, and wanted more context to it. And like the rest of us didn't have the ability to go like, man, I wish he could just come back and talk to this guy. And Joe Rogan goes like, yeah, come on out.
Yeah, let me fly you out.
Let me fly you out.
The amount of money that he gets for ad reads,
yeah,
tens of thousands of dollars, is insane.
I know.
And I have that on good authority. I know for a fact he's getting major bank on those ad reads. It's amazing.
Yeah,
that's how he can build that new studio. It's so good for him because he's got the podcast that everybody in my circles talks about.
Yep.
We love it.
If you He's probably if he gets. I think if he starts going more and more to keeps wearing those hunter shirts and get more people into hunting, he'll make even more.
Dude, the episode about coyotes, I don't even remember what it was, but it was sometime late last year. It was one of the most interesting programs. I learned so much about coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's like 100 million cats a year killed by owls.
Yeah.
Not coyotes. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy.
What also shows you how dangerous the freaking United States is outside of the freaking cities.
So I want to read.
Wildlife is.
I want to open up to some listener letters. I want to start with Jennifer because she piggybacks off of that previous discussion. Hey Chris, I've been listening for a few months now, and I've heard you talk about the way that Facebook, YouTube, and other social media outlets are pushing their agenda over equal treatment for all contributors. I agree with your position on the subject and how we need to hold them accountable, but I am lost at how. I own a small business, provide firearms training. Most of my clients are not the type of people to abandon Facebook because of political concerns. How do I reconcile the exposure need that my company has with the personal knowledge that tells me that Facebook could hide my business page and continue to just steamroll over business owners like me? Do I just operate with the knowledge that is possible? Do I abstain from using the platform because they do not hold to what they claim to be? Is there another solution that I have not thought of? Thanks for your insight, Jennifer. This is a difficult question and one that I am struggling with, so I don't have a definitive answer. I think the best thing to do for your small business is to diversify. Don't be all in on Facebook ads. I think you can certainly still continue to purchase Facebook ads. I think it's important for you to grow your business and target new customers. But I think as you're getting those new customers, you need to be putting them into a backup bucket like an email newsletter. You need to have a secondary thing. You need to have a way to contact those people outside of Facebook. And I would take a look at some of the email marketing solutions. Maybe even talk to a local firm about building you some sort of, hey, get the top 5 guns. Download this free PDF now. If you give us your email, then we'll send you the PDF. Make it look good. Make it actually substantive. The worst thing in the world is when you download that thing and you're just like, oh, this is crap. And then talk to that audience on a regular basis. And then what you can do is advertise that landing page and that email, that product, essentially, to your Facebook. So you're building your email list. And you've already got an email list with a lot of your customers. So I would definitely... don't be afraid to give them money currently, but I do think that if you're troubled by their actions and you don't think that they're a good partner, as I do, find other avenues to diversify your marketing, so that you're not beholden to one company. Start doing videos and do those videos, which you can do on a cell phone. I mean, Harry, you watch gun videos all the time.
Yeah.
That you could easily put that on YouTube or a Facebook page and then email that out to people, as content, and do that once a week. Hey, here's the new gun that we got in this week. Here's the... People
love gun reviews.
Yeah, gun reviews. That's great.
I follow this artist, Chris Hazleton. Brilliant artist, right? But what I really like, and which I wish he did more of, is gun reviews. That's not his bread and butter, but when he reviews a gun as an artist, because he really goes into the gun and that aspect, my God, his gun reviews are beautiful.
Yeah, so check that out. That's what I would do. I would definitely think about doing some content marketing, and think about how to market your business using other avenues. Be it a podcast or a video series or an email list or a website that's robust. I mean, people don't go to websites, so you really have to make sure that you're touching them in other ways.
Yeah, and another thing is what Chris is going on with. Chris says is make sure you're also tracking your analytics, finding out how much did your dollar go to in Facebook ads versus somewhere else and doing something else. How many impressions or sales did you get from tabling at maybe a gun convention or something like that? Finding out where your best dollar's at, that's alternative, or maybe you are making enough from Facebook from your money. You've got to find that out for yourself.
You can go on lynda.com, get a subscription, and you can learn how to do email marketing or content marketing, for a low monthly fee, and you can do it yourself through something like MailChimp or Action, or what is it? What's the one that I like? There's a bunch of different email programs. Or if you have a little bit of a bigger budget, set a budget of, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 and hire a marketing firm and have them teach you how to do it. And then once you've learned how to do it on your own. Like maybe you just realize I don't want to do this, and you keep paying them because you're making so much money off of the sales that you've got.
Exactly.
So I really think if you're going to take it to the next level, you really need to get some help, get some new knowledge, because that's going to make you feel less afraid, understanding what your other options are. So I just start out with a Google search or a YouTube search on content marketing or email marketing, and you should be good to go.
Yep.
All right, next letter is from Jason Doolittle. Jason is a $100 a month Patreon subscriber. You can become a subscriber at wearelibertarians.com. $5 a month, you get access to our private RSS feed. There's 30 extra minutes on this show that you get to listen to, for example. $10 a month, you get to watch the Facebook, or not the Facebook, you get to join the Facebook group of the super secret Dear Leaders Court, and you get to interact with a lot of the other hardcore fans, and you get to watch the live video stream of the show on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sorry, I've been instructed by some listeners not to belch, so I had to hit the mic.
Good.
Sorry about that. I'm trying to be professional. And then $25, you get a poster. $100 a month, you get to come on the show. So Jason sent me this lovely note. I asked people, hey, what does this show mean to you? What have you gotten out of it? I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to be able to read it on the air, but if you don't want it read on the air, then just, email it to me and let me know, because I had, as you will hear if you are a Patreon subscriber, another rough episode with Roger Paxton, where Roger basically said, I'm not a libertarian, and I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm an idiot, and he was very condescending, as always. And, I just was like, I was down, Harry. I got to be honest. After it was an hour of gaslighting, and I wasn't feeling great. And talked to some listeners, and they really got me. It's so great to talk to the Patreon subscribers, especially, or listeners in general, because I don't feel I'm always I don't always express back to you the emotion that a listener expresses to me. I usually say something like, I really appreciate it, but that's the limit of how that's my limit of what I can say. I really just am blown away when people send stuff like that of what the show means. And this letter was so touching to me, and I really needed this today, and I wanted to read it on the show. So Jason writes, after hearing you share some of the recent stories about people being converted to libertarianism by listening to your podcast, I thought you'd like to hear how the podcast has affected me. Being politically homeless in 2008, I stumbled upon libertarianism. I don't really remember how it happened exactly, but I learned about libertarianism, read about libertarianism, and then realized I was a libertarian. And like any new convert, I wanted to know more. It so happened that a couple of years later, I discovered the magic of podcasts and audiobooks. I was driving an hour total for my commute and had time to listen. I downloaded a podcast and searched for libertarian. Of course, I found We Are Libertarians. I started listening to the podcast somewhere in the 30s episodes, right before Galt left, with the original trio. And I've listened the entire catalog. I got really nervous that the podcast would end after the episode when your wife left you. I'd had so many aha moments listening to you explain ideas that I hadn't been able to fully form or articulate, that I panicked a little thinking about how I would keep learning. And you've challenged a lot of my natural instincts, both politically and in my personal life. And that's the thing that really stands out for me about your podcast. You've literally helped me become a better person, husband, father, by helping understand the complexities of people. It's okay that my children may not believe the same way that I do. And it's okay to be vulnerable to my wife. And it's okay to be honest with my coworkers about struggles that I'm facing. I've become more open about my feelings. I've become more patient with my children. And in general, you've helped me feel more at peace with myself by helping me accept my own unique flaws. In short, you've helped me evolve into a more complete individual. So when I say that $100 a month is the least that I can do to help you keep podcasting, I literally mean that is the least I can do. I think the podcast going away would leave a hole in my life that would not be easily filled. In many ways, I feel like I know you and your co-host as well as people I know my entire life. I've known my entire life. I look forward to many more podcasts, and I wish you all the success you seek. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next evolution of Wall will bring. With thanks, gratitude, and friendship, Jason. That's really sweet. Are you crying?
I'm almost really close. That's awesome.
Me too. Me too.
That's amazing.
And I'm
really needed that.
I'm the fortunate beneficiary of several of these kind of emails a month, and I cannot thank you guys enough. Sometimes I sit there and I think, gosh, why aren't we as talked about as other podcasts? Why aren't we as relevant in the libertarian movement as other podcasts? Why aren't we bigger? Or am I doing the right thing? Am I really not a libertarian? Like, is Roger right? Like, it doesn't really fucking matter because when I read an email like that, or I talk to, like, Carly said something very similar to me last night, or people say, I'm off Facebook and I've connected to my family, and it's because of the show where I was listening to this, and I'm like actually enjoying my life. Because I'm less online and I'm more connected to my real life. Like, that to me is, I can't believe anybody listens to us. But I truly appreciate it. And that's one of my goals. I really feel like this show is trying to put a more human face on libertarianism. I think a lot of libertarians try to think economics first, and I understand that, but I'm just not a math person. I'm not an economics person. I got a C in high school economics. It doesn't interest me that much, but what interests me is people. And I think libertarians a lot of times forget that interpersonal relationships are just as important in an anarchist society. At the very end of the ideology, when we achieve our goal of becoming a completely government-free society, you're going to have to learn how to work with people and be a decent human.
Right.
And Lord knows I fail all the time. I'm going through a period right now where, like, I really need to, like, buckle down and do some things, and I can kind of feel myself over-functioning a little bit, and, I feel like I'm not doing the best that I can in certain areas, but that's normal. I think that's just how people are. So what I really want people to get out of the show is it's okay to be a human being. It's okay to have empathy for people that you disagree with and continue to talk to them. And while you're learning about the news, you're learning about libertarianism, you're learning about politics, but to know that I've touched someone's life, even just Jason's life in this way, where he's a better husband, a better father, it's truly meaningful. And I cannot thank you enough, Jason. That is honestly better than any donation anybody could have given. So, and Harry, I know that I get a lot of letters that I always share with you about how you make a big impact. Our friend Brandon Luke, he mentioned something along those lines. There's a lot of Harry super fans. It's got to be really touching to make a difference in somebody's life, just doing something that is fun and talking into a microphone once a week.
Oh, yeah. It's really neat listening to the people who've been tuning in for that long, the original, listen to the OG crowd, and then been back there when those shows were relevant and live. And I remember even the first time when I went to that YAL convention, right after the whole fight, and was able to talk to everybody. Like, hey, you guys are here. It's an awesome time. And I just, man, I don't think I've got words. Every time I read some, like when you read me and you send me some of that, because there's been a lot of different times that I feel like, I just want to take a week off, or I'm tired, or,
right.
Am I really talking to this microphone, and, do people really care, and, or am I saying the right, because I'm saying, I'm reading, I'm researching, and I'm just putting things out there that from just going from just from the I can put it, the example that you set, And I'm trying to say, well, this, this is something, almost in the fact that like this is kind of like in the same ram fact of would go fly with your leader. I'm going to say this too,
Right.
And because they reflect myself, my own personal growth.
Right.
Like I think I said, like, hey man, I used to be an asshole. I admit it. I used to be a massive asshole, and I worked on it.
Right.
And from this podcast has helped me work on it.
It doesn't mean that you're not going to be an asshole
No,
once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
But you can be cognizant that I'm trying not to be an asshole.
Right. I'm trying not to be.
Right.
Granted, I work in IT, so, it happens. It's so much easier when I have to type to someone like, because I can type my snarky comment and go, ooh, no.
Right.
And then like clean it up and something like that, which is fun. But yeah, it's more of like I've taken it and I've grown, and even listened to the past episodes, like I've listened to see how I've grown in my own self from this, and it's amazing to hear from people that are structured. It's oh man.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to write in at editor@WeAreLibertarians.com. You don't have to have your life changed by this podcast, but if you've learned some stuff and it's helped, like if you have had a piece of your political philosophy grow or you've reshaped your thinking about something, I want to hear it and I want to read it on the air because I think there's a lot of people out there that identify with that. So if you're brave enough, please, editor@WeAreLibertarians.com. Mm-hmm. On to the next couple of letters. They're both about gun control. This one's a little longer, so I'm going to try and truncate a little bit. This is from our friend Dylan. Dylan writes, "All praise, dear leader. For those of you who are new, we're going to have to explain the dear leader thing. I was once introduced by a city councilor here in Indianapolis, Duke Oliver, who introduced me to the president of the council at the time, Joanne Sanders, as the president of all libertarians. He was like, he's the president of all libertarians. He meant executive director, but it's very funny. And then that somewhere along the line, Greg morphed that into dear leader, and sort of a joke off of a Steve Jobs blog. And after I had to fire Galt, I just had to make it clear to everyone, because Chris Galt at one time got fired from this podcast for bad behavior. And I just had to make it clear to everyone, I'm dear leader. This is mine. This is my project. You're in my realm. Behave. And thankfully, the audience has turned that into a ridiculous joke. So all praise, dear leader. First off, thank you, Dylan, my dear subject. First off, thank you for bringing me back into the fold. Yours was the first libertarian podcast I subscribed to and heard. I started listening 3 or 4 years ago, and I've really enjoyed having people that I can feel like our friends, even though this conversation is always one way. We were talking about that in the chat today with the Boss Hog, about how weird it is to, like, you talk to someone and they know a lot about you, and they feel you're friends, but you have no idea who they are. And I have this experience when I'm out in public from both Bob and Tom, and then also the day job, and then also this, where they know way more about me. And it's always a weird thing, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable. It's just like a funny thing. I appreciate it. I have called myself a libertarian since 04-05 when I started learning about that local Texas politician in high school, and I gravitated towards crazy old Ron Paul. But it wasn't until I found your podcast and one of your guests and people mentioned on your show that I was able to really start diving into the libertarian world and theory. I know you as someone who has a great level of empathy for everyone. In addition to being principled as a libertarian and fairly aligned with my values, I think I am more ANCAPy than you, probably. You have held a different opinion on guns than I have ever had. Here's a post that I wrote with some other libertarians, and I'd like your opinion on my questions. It's as bad as you think it's going to be, Harry. Brace yourself. Other libertarian forums, the poor guy's trying to get help, and you just can't wait until you hear what he gets back. Oh, because it gets even worse, this poor guy. Yeah, I at one time was not, I was just as culturally indoctrinated about guns as anybody else when I became the executive director in 2008, because I was a fairly new libertarian. You know, now it's much different, and so, yeah, you see, like, guns for me has been one of the most clear brainwashings that I've seen from our culture. So Dylan writes, I really respect your openness to share the experience you've had with your my ex-wife. I hope you can offer some insights or opinions. Even though, since this long argument mentioned below with my wife about guns, we've made up and smiled and laughed. I know that this issue is still in her mind and will come out again. She was very upset to the point of tears, and I didn't know how to support sympathies or empathies without compromising something I felt very important about. I know that there's a lot here. If you want to go into more details, feel free to reach out. Or if this is too much in general, I understand, and I thank you again. May the sun never set on the reign of dear leader. So, essentially, he's having a fight with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you read through what he writes in this other group, he mentions Jason, so I'm going to go with Stapleton. It's probably Stapleton's group. It's probably where I'm guessing. So he and his wife were arguing for about 8 hours over gun control.
Mm-hmm.
She's a teacher and in California, and she's also in favor of banning AR-15s and doesn't see the problem with taking them from law-abiding owners. Her reason was, if the 2012 law had gone into effect, these specific guns couldn't have been used, meaning all the lives from Sandy Hook to Parkland would still be alive. She was also saying that by not supporting banning that style of weapon, there's more value being placed on a right to own a gun than for the right to someone to live. I wouldn't say that I would support banning that style of weapon. She said she saw this as a betrayal of her support, him supporting her, and him not being empathetic to all teachers and students who have been killed or are scared, and valuing life over liberty. I tried to convince her that I do care about people living and dying, and that life is not worth more than any particular object or tool, but our fight kept coming back, and she was very upset. So, she's very upset because she and her fourth graders have to run through drills for gunmen, but neither of them wants to compromise on their personal values. So I totally understand, and I can imagine that this is a situation that a lot of spouses are having as these conversations come up. And he's basically asking for advice on, like, how do I maintain my position but also love my wife and respect her opinion, and maybe give her some food for thought on how to change it. Okay, so this is what he gets from a libertarian. Government exists to protect life, liberty, and prosperity. Therefore, solutions to problems should not infringe upon those. Limiting my self-defense options not only infringes on my liberty, but also my right to property. Sure, there will be tragedies, but without the means of defense, there will be genocides. How quickly people forget the tools we have are to match what our government will have, whether it be in 50 or 500 years. History will repeat. It does take a long time to change someone's position if they are passionate in the opposite direction. Took me 4 years to change my buddy's wife. The other day, she told me it finally clicked with her that we don't have guns so we can go hunting. Just don't be abrasive and keep the discussions respectful. Now, this person's totally right. Everything he said is exactly right. But I'd like to point out that his buddy's wife only changed her mind when she was not really focused on the problem and something just kind of clicked for her. And then she saw, oh, it's to my benefit that I support this. And I like hunting, but it's also for this thing. And this is typical libertarian message. And I'm not, if this person for some reason is a listener, somehow I apologize that I'm picking on you. But this is just typical libertarian messaging where it's about rights. It's about protecting life, liberty, and property. I will not give up my rights because I will die. There will be genocides. I'm going to take it to an extreme place. Well, his wife probably doesn't give a shit about any of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that won't help you there. That makes you sleep on the couch and, just stuck there with, the palms.
So how would you're a married man, successfully married man,
yep.
Unlike some of us at the table. How would you approach this particular situation?
Well, first off, see, my wife is different. And it's completely different, and I have no idea how to talk with any other wives except mine, because All I know is like it's the same way I do with any other thing when we started to have the conversation and showing her and talking about guns, because I've always been about guns.
Right.
That was the one thing that like I couldn't. It was always weird for me when I was going through like in public schools and was a quote unquote Democrat liberal, because like no, I need guns. I need my guns. Do you not understand this? You don't understand why I need my guns,
Right?
But I think the best thing you did do was keep listening to her issues and finding out which ones they're there,
right,
and finding out issues. And I think another thing you could do is show, don't tell her. So everything that she has an issue with, just kindly show her, like, okay, well, you're worried about this. Let me show you this. You mind if I show you?
Right.
Take it a day. Hey, no. I'm guessing, like, has she gone through has she actually seen the inner workings of, like, an AR? Understanding what it is, versus anything else.
Right.
And then also understanding the, like, when it comes down to it, that basically, like, not trying to depict her argument, but just try to show her the compassion that you have in your own argument.
Right.
Show her that on why. Take out the rights and stuff like that. Show her the reasoning show her the feelings, the emotions on why you carry. That probably will do more for her than to shout at her the Second Amendment on repeat.
Right. And I think when you're trying to persuade someone, the first place you start is you have to make it about their interests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it's one thing that I've learned doing broadcasting is that every person is selfish. Every person listening to this podcast is giving their time to me because they see a benefit out of it. And I'm cool with that because I get a benefit, you get a benefit out of it. You listen to us for 4 or 5 hours a week, we make you smart about what's going on in the news. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Harry.
Before you go, just to let you know, you probably don't like my advice. You probably, but because I'm the guy that took apart an engine on our dining room table, and I didn't really give my wife a warning. I just kind of bought it. She came home from work, and there it was, a part on the kitchen table. Okay?
That's the most autistic thing I've ever heard in my life.
And then her friends were like, I can't believe you should kick him out, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it's just like, no, if I kicked him out, he would just leave and just...
I don't have to clean the house myself.
And then he'll spend time over there with that motor, and then I'll end up having to spend time with the motor. I'm just paying 2 rents.
So I think when you have big subjects like this where you have differing personal values, you have to be patient. Okay, that is the first trait that I would say, that you've got to be patient, and you have to never lose your cool because you're showing patience. Remember, and you have to at the same time stand your ground. Be firm, but be loving in your firmness. Okay. I appreciate that you feel this way. We have different opinions on this, but it is something that I feel strongly about, and I'd love to talk more about it. Okay, language like that, where nothing like "you stupid whore." Don't fight about it. If you what I found with my ex-wife is that there was a point, okay, where we were getting on each other's nerves. And you could feel the tension building, and you start having that conversation, and you're like 5 back and forth from really ramping this shit up to 11. Mm-hmm. Where you're really about to take it all, you're about to start screaming. You got to stop way before that. And my ex-wife hated that I would stop and stop engaging. See, because it was like Vietnam. Okay, she would roll in with the tanks, and she'd barrage me with yelling and every insult she could think of, and I just lay back and snipe. Yeah, well, that's why your hair looks bad,
Ooh,
which is not nice. But no, I would stop, and I would just say to her, "Listen, this is not going to be productive. I'm mad. You're mad. Let's just take a break from this conversation." So I think you can never let it get too far. Because I think in an interpersonal relationship, there are things where, I think take Roger and me. You have a situation where we do this show called The League of Liberty, and a couple episodes ago, it went too far. And so this last episode last night, it it got there again in a less vicious way, more about ideas than personal stuff. But it's like, it's hard. It's like when you're in high school. It's like, once you've been to third, you can't go back to first, right? If you go all the way home, you're not going back to third. Like, it's.
I didn't go that far in high school.
Yeah, me neither. But I'm just trying to relate to people, Harry. But I guess
anyone listening with that.
They're libertarians too. But no, I think
maybe niece.
You have to stop yourself, and you just have to, like, you can't convert somebody or change somebody's mind when they're in a defensive mode. When they feel defensive, they've shut down, and they're trying to win an argument. And that's why you don't change minds on Facebook, is because everybody's trying to win an argument. They're not trying to change anybody's mind by having a dialogue. So I would step back, and I would say, think about her motivations, and I would ask questions. So, I mean, you kind of already know, but it's important that she feel heard, okay? She's a teacher. She's scared. She's dealing with emotions that you don't understand because you're not going through them, and she wants you to understand those emotions to the best of your ability. She wants you to support her. Mm-hmm. And I think you understand that based on Dylan, on your email. So that's the most important thing. Like, the most important thing is making sure that your spouse or your partner feels respected, that they feel heard, that they feel loved, that you've got their back. Like, having someone's back, I think, is incredibly important in a relationship. That is more important than changing her mind about guns.
Right.
Okay? So listening instead of talking and convincing, I think, is more important in that realm. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to be empathetic and caring and loving, shut up. Unless you're asking questions, you're looking into her eyes, and you're asking her things about her instead of waiting for her to stop talking so you can start lecturing. It's really tough for us libertarians to do that, okay, especially men. If you're looking to change her mind, then you have to think about her self-interest, okay? And you cannot think about her self-interest till you understand how she feels and thinks about this subject. Okay, so it's a case-by-case basis because you don't know, but, you know, she's like a lot of other people who think that if these guns go away, then these shootings will go away. And so you have to start and say, okay, Harry, do you think that if we get rid of guns that it will stop all shootings?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, can I tell you about Australia, where they removed all these guns, mm-hmm. and they only recovered a third of them,
Ooh.
And they still have mass shootings.
Oh.
So while I understand that you hold that position, it's not effective.
Oh, crap.
And so let's start looking at things that are effective. What are some effective things? Well, I just don't want people to die. Well, actually, did you know that guns really save a lot of lives? So, like, I just was looking this up on the CDC,
mm-hmm. Because the CDC did do research.
Which is a federal government agency, and they found that in the 90s, 2.2 million people were saved in gun incidents mm-hmm. every year. So, yeah, 100,000 died, but there were also 2.2 million people that are alive because they had protection. They had that personal safety.
Right.
And I think what you have to do is you have to look at the facts, listen to the arguments, and then start researching that. Just go on Google and start going, how many people are saved by guns every year? Turn it around a little bit and say, it's not about right. Because here's the thing that libertarians miss. People don't care about your rights. They don't care about their own rights. Mm-hmm. They don't understand their rights, and the Second Amendment being a right is not something that means a hill of beans to them.
Right.
Okay? But effectiveness of government policy is something that is going to convince someone. And you can only do that with facts. And that happened with somebody who worked for 538. She wrote, I used to think gun control was the answer. My research told me otherwise. Leah Labresco is a statistician and former news writer at 538, a data journalism site. Before I started researching gun deaths, gun control policy, it used to frustrate me. I wished the NRA would stop blocking common sense gun legislation such as banning assault weapons, restricting silencers, shrinking magazine sizes, and all other measures that can make guns less deadly. Then my colleagues and I at 538 spent 3 months analyzing all 33,000 lives ended by guns each year in the United States. 2.2 million versus 33,000 lives. Those 33,000 are a tragedy, but 2.2 million is a genocide. And I woke up frustrated in a whole new way. We looked for what interventions might have saved these people, and the case for the best policies I lobbied for crumbled when I examined the evidence. I looked for answers in Britain and Australia. I found that they didn't work. Their buyback program didn't work, and in both Australia and Britain, the gun restrictions had an ambiguous effect on other gun-related crimes. When I looked at the other oft-praised policies, I found out that no gun owner walks into the store to buy an assault weapon. It's an invented classification. The guns are modular. They're like Legos. As for silencers, they deserve that name only in movies when they reduce gunfire to a soft pew pew. In real life, silencers limit hearing damage for shooters, but don't make the guns fire quietly. We kept looking at the answer. 2/3 of gun deaths in the United States are suicides. Almost no proposed restriction would make it meaningfully harder for people with guns on hand to use them. I couldn't even answer my most desperate question. If I had a friend who had a gun in his home and a history of suicide attempts, was there anything that I could do to help? However, the next largest set of gun deaths, 1 in 5, were young men, 15 to 34, killed in homicides. These men were most likely to die at the hands of other young men, often related to gang loyalties or other street violence. And the last notable group of similar deaths was the 1,700 women murdered per year, usually as the result of domestic violence. Far more people were killed in these ways than in mass shooting incidents, but few of the popularly floated policies were tailored to serve them. So, and in the case of domestic violence, something like background checks can keep a woman in a situation that's in a dangerous situation from getting a gun. So gun laws can actually inhibit the ability of one of those 1,700 women a year to save their life. A red flag law, which we've talked about on the program before, is something that you could use to save someone in a situation that is, they're suicidal, they've got a gun, and you can go to a judge and have that gun temporarily removed from their house.
Right. And that's using a system we already use to take someone's rights away, going to a judge.
Right.
In a court.
It's already outlined.
We do this to put people in jail.
We have it
in
Indiana.
Take away their rights.
Yep.
That's the way you take away. So, granted, it sucks to take away someone's rights, but you go to someone who's not party to it and try to be arbitrary about it.
So this page is 2 pages printed out.
Not try to be arbitrary. Right? I'm sorry.
You can go and grab it off of the Twitter or on our show notes. You can print it out, and just leave it around.
Yeah.
Let her see you reading it, and then leave it around, and maybe she'll pick it up and read it too. Because for most people, reading is like an abnormal thing. So, like, if there's I learned this trick in terms of in marriage counseling. Like, you want to change somebody. Like, all right, well, they have a problem with boundaries. Get a copy of the book Boundaries, read the book, and then just like leave it out, and maybe they'll get curious and start picking it up and reading it too. That's a very non-invasive way to say, like, hey, here's this information. Consume it when you're ready. I'm not trying to put pressure on you. They don't even notice it. So I think there are people only learn when they're ready to learn. You could also find the so I got totally distracted by the chat. I'm sorry.
Look at that.
Yeah, Paul is in trouble. He's going to get spanked.
Don't look at that.
So yeah, I think you have some options here. Hopefully we've given you some options on how to talk to them, because it really comes down to facts. And gun control is one of those things where if you pick up the book Control by Glenn Beck about gun rights, or John Lott is an author about gun control, and he's compiled a ton of statistics. The War on Guns, I believe, is one of his books. Find some books with some hard information, and you will feel more secure in your conversations when you have some of those statistics. But I think that article in particular is a great one where you can just kind of say, hey, I know we had this conversation. this person agrees with you, and here's what she found. I'd love for you to take a look at it. If you feel that you can go to her directly, which hopefully you can. We talked about that red flag law, and the red flag law, the temporary gun restraining order law, would have saved 4 people in Nashville. There was a killer whose erratic behavior began years before. The police say he showed up without pants at a Waffle House restaurant and killed 4 people with an assault-style rifle. Washington Post wrote this. The one-time construction crane operator bounced between states, suffered from delusions, sometimes talking about plans to marry Taylor Swift. Friends and relatives told police he was arrested outside the White House last year after speaking to Donald Trump, or attempting to, and his bizarre actions seemed to intensify in recent days with a car theft. Now he is charged in Tennessee with 4 counts of criminal homicide. He's been jailed without bond. He didn't do drugs or drink. He was openly gay. He didn't like the government or the NRA, and he talked about being a sovereign citizen, although the meaning of the phrase wasn't clear. Bounced around the country. His boss reached out to his father with concerns about his son's mental health. The father said he was trying to rekindle his relationship with the killer. Back in Illinois, last June, a sheriff's report showed the younger man barged into a community swimming pool and jumped in wearing only a pink underwear and a pink woman's coat. That same day, an employee at his family's business, J&J Cranes, said he emerged from an apartment above the office wearing a pink dress, clutching a rifle and yelling profanities, according to a report. Sounds like somebody we used to know, Harry.
Yeah.
Clutching a rifle and a pink dress, yelling profanities. The sheriff's department called his father, who was out of state. He said his son was having problems. The police suggested that the father lock the guns up until Travis gets the killer gets mental health. The father agreed to do so. When he was arrested, he wasn't armed. He still had his guns. His dad gave the guns back to his son. So that is an instance where the father could have called local authorities in Nashville, where he was living at the time, and said, hey, my son is clearly nuts. He's got some issues. The father eventually gave the guns back. Who knows why? He may face federal charges on that. I didn't read why, but that's what I read in an article. But that's an instance in the news right now where it could have helped. Mm-hmm. So, the left. Remember when the police officer in Parkland couldn't possibly stop an AR-15 with a pistol?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You remember?
So
remember
hard.
that? Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, now the Waffle House hero.
Mm-hmm.
Who I think is a tremendous human being based on what I'm seeing on CNN and other news outlets, stopped him with his hands. And now everyone on the left who said you can't stop them with a pistol is saying just stop them with your hands. Why does a good guy need a gun when he can just use his hands? Well, that's because not everybody has the same level of courage and bravery that this guy does.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's not one size fits all, you idiots.
Yeah. I would have been too busy enjoying my hash browns.
Right. So James Straw Jr. Was in the Waffle House that day when the killer came in, and he bolted from his seat and slid along the ground towards the restroom, but kept an eye and ear out for the gunman. At the moment the shooter paused, Shaw decided to ambush him. I figured if I was going to die, he was going to have to work for it, Shaw told reporters. He charged at the man with the rifle, and they tussled for what felt like a minute, maybe 2. Shaw said his
adrenaline... long time.
Yeah, a long tussle. His adrenaline was pumping as the gunman cursed, and he fought him. The barrel of the rifle was still hot when Shaw managed to grab it and throw it. The encounter left Shaw with a burn on his hand and a wound on his elbow where the bullet grazed. The gun was hot, and he was naked, but none of that mattered, Shaw said. I was just trying to get the gun away from him. So he then went on to say, hours after the incident, what he did was a selfish act. I was completely doing it just to save myself, he said. I don't want people to think that I was the Terminator or Superman or anybody like that. He went to church shortly after, mere hours after he confronted the gunman. It definitely helped, and I prayed for the victims. There's 4 families that are grieving right now. So much life was lost for no reason. I feel like it could be very selfish of me if I didn't point it out, and I apologize. Shaw said he wanted to stay in touch with those families as well as the survivors. His first step was to create a GoFundMe, which has currently raised $15,000. And in return, someone created a GoFundMe account for his daughter. So, James Shaw Jr., great story, and a story of bravery that we wanted to celebrate.
Yep.
Let's see, what time is it?
And I'm sure he wished he was wrestling with him. I'm sure he wished he had a pistol.
Right.
And would have just put 5 shots at him.
All right, I'm gonna truncate this next one because she gave me permission to. Let's see here. The anonymous listener writes in, I discovered Wall today in class. Basically, she was listening in class to all this propaganda, and she was like, I got to get more informed. So she started searching for podcasts and found us. She lives with 2 teenagers in Texas in a very pro-gun place. And I think she thinks that her kids they're asking questions about guns, and they kind of want to know what she thinks because she suspects they want to know what they should think. And that's not how she does things. So I believe in presenting all the sides and opinions and then asking them what they think. What kind of world do you want to live in? What kind of laws or non-laws would you have if you were in charge? Which is great. I was wondering if you would elaborate on a bit why you agree and disagree with some of the policy points from the student walkout movement. I think we kind of covered that, and it's not too relevant, and I know that you said that we answered some of the questions, but I disagreed with the policy. I don't disagree with the student walkout. I think that students have a First Amendment right to go and speak.
Good.
Okay, they have a First Amendment right to leave. They have a First Amendment right to put in their newspaper whatever they want. I don't believe the bullshit that the Supreme Court pushed that essentially it's supposed to be censored by the local administrators. I don't agree with that. I think if you start teaching censorship in high school, then that carries into an adulthood. So I don't agree with the politics of the walkout. I also don't agree that students should be forced to participate in the walkout, as definitely happened in some of those cases. It should not be mandatory, and anyone who has a different view should be allowed to exercise their conscience as they see fit. And so any administrator or other student that bullies another person into going out because it's culturally what they should be doing, quote unquote, I don't agree with that. You mentioned that banning assault weapons is a slippery slope because then you have to decide which guns to actually ban, and how do you decide what constitutes an assault weapon? Well, the media decided to create assault weapons.
Right.
So that's a made-up term. It's not even a real thing, Harry.
Yeah.
What?
The closest thing you can do is assault rifle, which just means it's a military term for select fire rifle, but it's the closest thing you can get.
Right. So do we allow any and all guns to be sold?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah. And the fact that you can, like, people's like, you can get full auto, but you're going to pay for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the main people that was going at, and the main people who were buying full auto and didn't want full auto were bootleggers, alcohol bootleggers, and people going the rounds in the black market that could afford these massive, expensive weapons to shoot at cops.
So yeah, I think we've kind of covered guns and why guns should exist. I mean, it is an inherent right for you to have the ability to not only protect yourself from other human beings, to protect your property, to protect your family, to protect your community, but also to protect from a tyrannical government.
If you to really put this into perspective, watch some Fedor and watch this Fedor Mir fight on the UFC. Yeah, the Fedor. Look at Fedor, right? What did you do to defend against him? I don't care what you know. If you're not close to Fedor's size, you're done.
Right.
You're done. And even if you are, if you're not to his athleticism, you're done.
Right.
The only equalizer in that situation is that we both can buy the same 9mm.
Right.
And that's what it could, because human beings will there's always been that element. Some human beings will try to go after some other human being.
Right.
The only equalizer you have is the using technology to help make us equal,
right,
and that in trying to defend ourselves. If not, It's who can buy the best axe, who can buy the best sword, who's faster with their sword. It's all, and if that's only if you win the genetic biology to be able to move. Because if you gave Spangle a saber, myself a saber, I'm stabbing Spangle so many times with that saber.
No, not if you catch me first, bitch.
I don't have to catch him. I'm just I'm sure he can not riposte very well, and if he does, he'll probably riposte once and throw his back out.
I have a very strong back, okay? Spend a lot of hours on it with your mom.
Well, my mom's only dates foil, man, and I clearly said saber, so. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So the principle of gun ownership is really not only a philosophical one, but these guns. I think in both of these letters, it's really about educating yourself. And if you're not comfortable, go to a range and have someone teach you. Mm-hmm. Gun people love to teach other people about guns.
Go through a gun safety class. You don't need a gun to go through a gun safety class.
Yeah, take you and your kids through a gun safety class so they at least have it's like teaching them swimming.
Right.
These gun safety classes should be like taking your kids for swimming lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You do it for their own good. You do it for their own protection. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't you take them through a self-defense course and a gun safety course?
Yep. And then it also helps them so even if they do not like guns, they know how to be safe around them. If they don't want to be around them and someone brings one around and they're being unsafe, they can tell the person like, hey, man, your trigger discipline is awful.
Right.
Put that back in its holster. No.
Right.
No. And, you can join the crowd of the people like, whoa, 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 whoa. That, the trigger discipline. Or the simple fact that understanding like that all guns are always loaded. No one goes like, oh, man, it's unloaded. When they get it, they'll check it. Like, nope, this thing was loaded. They'll check it. Or they know how to.
Yeah, go to a local gun show because mm-hmm. I can tell you that going to the local Indy 1500 gun and knife show, mm-hmm. it was the first time that I was like, oh, wow, gun owners are really responsible, respectful people. They understand what they're talking about. They're not all crazed maniacs like the cultural conversation.
And you also figure out that all conventions are all the same. You especially go to a gun show. There's cosplayers there.
So she continues. You also mentioned the flaws with our current background check. So why extend a system that is already flawed? It sounded like you weren't disagreeing with background checks in general, just the idea of increasing them. So what is the answer regarding background checks? Fix the current system, and if so, how would we do that? The background checks, let me give you some history on background checks before we answer this. This comes from the Washington Post. They're fact-checking Trump and the NRA gun claims on background checks. I'm just going to read you the part that won't make you crazy. Federally licensed firearms dealers have been required to run background checks on gun buyers since 1994, when Clinton signed the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. Almost all of these searches are done through the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, NICS. They leave the B out for some reason in that, probably so they can say NICS. A database launched by the FBI in 1998 as part of the Brady Law. According to FBI data, more than 253 million background checks were conducted from November 30th, 1998, when NICS started, through the end of 2016. Nearly 27.5 million checks, or 11% of that historical total, were done in 2016. A separate report from the Bureau of Justice shows that more than 3 million, or 1.5%, of gun applications were denied between the Brady Law's effective date in 94 and the end of 2015. So that's 3 million people denied a gun. A federal law prohibits the transfer of guns to people convicted of a felony, those convicted of misdemeanor domestic violences, offensive, fugitives from justice, users of controlled substances, those who have been ruled mentally incapacitated, unauthorized immigrants, people dishonorably discharged from the military, and others. But there are well-documented issues with the NICS database because not all states report all their data on convictions or mental health adjudications or military. They seem to forgot somebody, and then that Texas tragedy
So like
happens.
a brown people get nixed on that list.
Right. So why am I against background checks? Because they're not effective, first of all. And second of all, they violate your rights, okay? A background check assumes that you are going to do something wrong with the gun. All right. A background check is all laws, okay, laws are not preventative. Okay, if you pass a law, it's not going to prevent anything. People who are going to murder are going to commit murder. People who are going to rape are going to rape. Okay, the idea of deterrence based on going to jail does help in cases. Okay, I'm not going to deny that deterrence isn't a factor. All right, but we pass laws for after the fact. Mittens is in the laundry room fucking some shit up. I don't know what she's doing. Probably just pissing everywhere, being a little asshole like she always is. So a background check is, again, an after the fact piece of information. Yes, it has stopped 3 million people, but it really is to make sure that you're allowed to have that gun. Okay, in Chicago, they don't give a fuck about background checks. They just buy weapons, shoot people, and then if they get a gun charge, they get a gun charge. So that's why I personally disagree with background checks.
Like you, the 3 million, right? Mm-hmm. Convicted of a controlled substance, right? Mm-hmm. Marijuana. Right. Who gets busted mostly for marijuana? Brown people. Right. Okay, so that's keeping them out of their hands. Disarmed discharge. A lot of the guys from Vietnam, a lot of old black men from that. Right. Now they can't get guns because, remember the Deacons of Defense, those were, war veterans that stood against the government. And they use those, same reasoning to take the guns from people.
Obama actually passed something in 2015, I think, where basically 257,000 former members of the military who cannot manage their finances were sent to the FBI, and they are not allowed to own a gun. People who Obama also made it, he sent to NICS a ruling that essentially the Obama administration is pushing a ban on Social Security beneficiaries from owning guns if they lack the mental capacity to manage their own affairs, a move that could affect millions whose disability payments are handled by others. So it's a slippery slope. It's like smoking. Mm-hmm. It's like they're doing to guns what they did to smoking if we just kind of block this off and then we take this out and then we can't do this. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we've strangled it so much that we can just get rid of all of it. Yeah,
there was all of it. And now they go after vaping. All right. Now the alternative. Let's get them. Let's get them too, because if not, they strangle themselves out of an entry. The other thing is, with the background check, it's like, well, we want someone with a gun because they have a proclivity to violence. Then why in the blue hell do we have these people walking around? Walking around. Yeah. Oh, he can't have a gun because he murdered some people. Why is he walking around?
So gunowners.org or GOA.
Yeah, GOA.
Has a fact sheet on background checks. So looking back, roughly 95% of NICS denials are false positives, which means most of the people who are being denied are not people that want to hold up a neighborhood grocery store. So for more information on that, before we go to the Daily Caller, why background checks couldn't stop the South Carolina shooter. For gun purchases, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives dropped over 94% of initial denials after just the first preliminary review. At least a fifth, the remaining 6%, were still false positives. It also talks about how a woman who's being stalked by an ex-boyfriend, time matters. And I think if you go back and listen to Amanda's story in the feed, episode 142, I believe, time matters a lot. You don't leave your house that night, he's going to kill you the next night. And that's why you've got to get to a shelter. A background check can delay that crucial self-protection. Remember, we had 1,700 people die last year because of domestic violence, women. Beyond the crashes in the computers doing the checks and the initial denials, another 6% of checks failed to be completed within 2 hours. Most delays wind up taking 3 days. Furthermore, there is no real scientific evidence amongst criminologists and economists that background checks actually reduce crime. In 2004, the National Academy of Science panel concluded that the Brady background checks didn't reduce any type of violent crime, nor have later studies found that beneficial effect. The number of criminals stopped by checks is also quite small. In 2010, There were over 7,600 initial denials, but only 44 of those were deemed worthy for prosecution by the federal government. 44 out of 76,000. And only 13 of those were convicted. Even though those 13 cases don't tend to be the dangerous criminals Obama claims are being stopped, there are additional state prosecutions that are rare as well.
Yep. And they won't prosecute him because they'll understand how many false positives out there in public.
Right. It's like why you don't use the lie detector in the court system. So yeah, the Obama administration had also came out this week. Acting FBI Deputy Director Andrew Bowditch testified last week on the Obama administration how they gave the order to purge more than 500,000 names from the background check database system. These were people that were fugitives, and 500,000 people now purged from the database. So when you look at background checks, they're not the answer. And increasing background checks to the universal background check, where if Harry and I, who are friends, I have a gun, he wants to buy it, I sell it to him, we got to do a background check first. That's asinine, okay? I'm determining if Harry is a responsible person to own my gun or not. A gun store, usually, they should be doing, I have to imagine that if any of these killers came in, you'd kind of know something was off.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe a background check can, in a way, be a good way to sorry, you didn't pass it. But
a lot of these people bought these guns years before, or they've gotten it before.
Right.
You know, so they could have got them same, then got crazy in 6 months.
Yeah, so there's also a potential for, and it has been shown, that anytime you do a background check for a gun, that information gets saved. They manage to save that data, which they're not supposed to. But when it comes to the data that, excuse me, I have the hiccups. The Texas shooter shouldn't own a gun. The Air Force didn't report that. The South Carolina shooter shouldn't have had a gun. He managed to buy one. The Parkland shooter shouldn't have been able to buy a gun according to background checks. He was able to buy one. So what you see is time and time again, this law that is supposed to prevent these shootings fails. Right. It doesn't work. It's not effective. And the only people that are punished by this entire system are people who are in danger, like women of domestic violence, or are annoyed and have their rights potentially violated, and people like Harry and myself, and you, the listener. So I am against background checks because it doesn't work, and it's a measure that not only does it not work, it's how did I put it earlier? It is a pretext for a charge. Right. You know what I mean? It's a pretext for another charge, which you don't need. Same with gun licensing.
Yeah, and then to make sure, and you can sit it out there, right? To make sure that I don't want a certain class of people to have guns. Right. So I'm going to make sure I bust every young black man for a drug crime. All right. Boom. They'll never have a gun legally, anyways.
Yep. People with medical marijuana cards can't own a gun. Yep. In Arizona, California. So
then also, you'll watch sometimes where in divorce cases that some women will be spiteful and they will also claim domestic violence on men, and they will lose their guns.
Yep. So yeah, we have and gun licensing is the same thing. A license does not. A criminal does not care about a license. No. In some of these studies in some of the gun owners of America fact sheets, they cite studies where 93% of the criminals just admitted to making up a fake ID to pass a background check and to get a gun license. So criminals don't care about our laws. And I know that it's so cliche, but it's the truth. The facts bear that out. The Brady bill has failed in so many ways. And the amount of gun deaths, violent gun deaths, have gone down as the amount of guns since the early 2000s has doubled. So you're telling me that it doesn't compute. If there's twice as many AR-15s as there were since 2006, shouldn't there be more violent deaths?
Well, yeah. Violent crime in general has on a massive slope down in the United States, even though most people think it's worse and it's more dangerous and habits. No, it's more Mayberry now than it has been Mayberry.
Right. All right, well, that is glad we could get to those, and hope that helps you forward this on to a friend. If you have kids, if you have teenagers, make them listen to this. Make them listen to this podcast. If you have a wife that's unruly, make her listen to this. All right.
Got a husband? You're cutting grass?
Want to thank Stone Aldridge has been killing it on our Instagram and our Facebook page. He's either annoying you or he's making you laugh. He's doing great work as a meme. I've given him a title so he can use it on his young resume, social media director. But he is the czar of memes for We Are Libertarians, and he's pumping them out on our Instagram account and our Facebook account. Also sent me this cool libertarian hat. I want to thank him for that. I want to thank Brandon Luke, Jason Doolittle, Christy Avery, and Craig DaCosta for being our $100 a month subscribers. Hopefully I don't leave anybody out, but I want to thank Todd Singer, Craig DaCosta, and Christy Avery, and an anonymous donor for donating to my trip. I am going to Porkfest, where I expect a fist fight. Roger Paxton, not Roger Stone. Roger Paxton. No, we're going to do a live taping of the League of Liberty, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of people. May see Bittner on this trip.
Bittner.
I know.
I miss him.
I'm looking forward to seeing Morgan, not Bittner. But going to Porkfest, and I'm going to the National Libertarian Convention. As I may have said in the pre-show, I am looking forward to these because I'm looking forward to seeing libertarians and kind of getting a feel for what's actually happening out there. So, hey, if you can't afford to go, send me. If you want to help offset the trip, if you want to help donate to offset the cost, because let me be frank, I'm going to Vegas for my brother's wedding next month. I'm going to Porkfest in June, and then 2 weeks later I'm going to New Orleans for the National Libertarian Convention. It's very expensive to take those 3 trips all at once, but I really kind of don't have a choice. I guess I had a choice, especially on Porkfest, but
And your brother's wedding.
yeah, exactly. Destination weddings. I'm not happy. I was not happy. But it'll be a great time. So if you are so inclined and willing, please paypal.me/wearelibertarians, and please make a contribution. I will read your name on the show and thank you publicly. Yeah, that's those are all the class announcements that I have. Harry, congratulations on the new job.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I'm extremely tired.
I bet you are. Yeah, now you know how I feel at the end of every show.
No. I've got to get up at 6 a.m. to get my daughter up so I could go to work first.
I don't have a daughter, but I have cats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also went to the gym. I did 8 minutes on the stair stepper. You don't know how hard that is for me. So I am pooped. I have to poop, and I'm ready to end this show. So thanks for joining us here on this episode of We Are Libertarians. I will see you Thursday with James Neese and Harry. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yep.
Until then, everybody have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of We Are Libertarians. I'm amazed you made it to the very end, and I appreciate that. And that means that you were a true fan of We Are Libertarians, and any true fan of We Are Libertarians should listen to our other podcasts. We have a whole network of shows. We have The Chris Spangle Show, where I talk about many of my varied interests that aren't political, a lot of podcasting talk, if you're interested in getting involved in podcasting. The Brian Nichols Show. Brian talks to a lot of different folks from the left, the right, the center, the libertarian movement. If you love We Are Libertarians, you will love The Brian Nichols Show. The Boss Hog of Liberty. The Boss Hog has basically created a media empire in his small town and has taken over, along with his co-host Dakota Davis. I think it's really interesting to see how they've built a media network, and I encourage you to do the same. Upward Political Training. It's a podcast where I've put a lot of training for libertarians on how to spread the message. The Cost. This is a podcast where we break down the human costs of government policy, so be sure to check that out. Raw Audio Politics, where basically I take unedited speeches and interviews and stuff that I want to listen to, and I put it in a podcast feed for you. Miranda's World. Miranda is one of the craziest human beings in a good way that I've ever met. She's so entertaining and so much fun, and I think you will love that. And who could not listen to Tad Talk? Tad Western brings you the rootinest, tootinest good time this side of the Mississippi. So be sure to check that out. He's one of the funniest human beings that I know. And if you are chubby and you need to get in shape, then you can't outrun the fork with Brett Bittner, where he talks about keto. Yes, I gave Brett Bittner a show. And you can check out a bunch of other podcasts at libertarianpodcasts.com. I have put together all of my favorite libertarian podcasts up there at libertarianpodcast.com, including our friends Lions of Liberty, The Lava Flow, The Johnny Rocket Launchpad. The Scott Horton Show is one that I definitely think you should be listening to. So go check that out. Lots of great libertarian podcasts out there. You may not know where to start. Start there. And we've also got a comprehensive list of all the libertarian podcasts I can find. Thank you for listening. And if you love We Are Libertarians, please check out all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.